Hey, before we dive in today, also, today is sign-up day for our cruise. Who all is over a cruise? Stand up for me. Wow, somebody's excited. Listen, hey, we've got crews that start meeting today at 2 o'clock. Pickleball cruise, we've got Frisbee cruise, we've got s'mores and more cruise. We've got farm live cruise, tats for that cruise. No, we don't have that cruise. But we've got, so sign up. You can sit down. Here's why I encourage that, because what goes on in here is great. But I'm going to tell you, real growth occurs in circles. When you're sitting around across from each other. And with that being said, the men's D group, we took off a few weeks. We'll be kicking back off not tomorrow night, but next Monday night. And we're going to be walking through a book called The 3 Mile Journey. How to find out what God's real will and plan is for your life. So I want to encourage you, listen, you can get the book and workbook for less than $20. I've got 10 of them that I've got ordered and ready in my office. You want one of those, let me know. If you want to order them on your own, I can give you the link. But I'm going to tell you, sign up for one of these groups and get connected. Amen? All right. Hey, man, I feel like I've been gone forever. So might as well start out with a good old dad joke, right? Absolutely. Hey, you know why God created Adam before Eve? Because he didn't want somebody telling him how to do it. Anyway. Come on now. That's funny. Some of the men are like, I'm not laughing. It's funny, but I'm not laughing. Hey, on a more serious note, the NOAA, or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, they predict that 2024 will be an above-average hurricane season, meaning we're going to experience more storms, more violent storms. Hurricane season officially runs June 1st through November 30th. Up to date, there have been 9 named storms, 5 hurricanes, one of those being a Category 5 hurricane, and this past week, Hurricane 4. Or Category 4. This past week, we watched as Hurricane Helene and what started out as a tropical storm, but by the time it made landfall down in Florida, had grown to a Category 4 hurricane with winds of about 140 miles per hour. From there, it quickly moved through Georgia, the Carolinas, Tennessee, causing major flooding in these towns and cities, dams threatening to break. As of now, they estimate the death toll at 62, but saying those numbers are going to rise as areas get cleaned down. If you do the research on the top 10, most devastating storms in U.S. history, here are the top 5. The Caminata hurricane of October 1893 saw 1,100 deaths. Hurricane Katrina, anybody remember that one? Yeah. It caused 1,207 deaths. The number 3, San Felipe Okeechobee, or however you say it, anyway, Okeechobee. Siri's trying to tell me how to pronounce it. September 1928, 2,166 deaths. Number 2 was Hurricane Maria of September 2017, where we saw 2,975 deaths. The number 1 most devastating hurricane in U.S. history happened in 1900, the Galveston hurricane, where it saw 8,000 deaths. That's a lot. So what causes, how come the numbers from 1900s, late 1800s, those numbers were really high, but the more we get into present day, the death toll goes down? Why is that? One of the biggest contributing factors is technology. Us being able to now track storms, see where they're going, see how they're moving, predict those storms, because it helps people get better prepared, right? If you know what's coming, you can prepare for it. So here's a question. What do you do when an unexpected storm hits? Storms that kind of hit your life out of nowhere. There's no warnings, no predictions, nothing. I remember the first cruise that Denise and I got to go on, 10 years in our marriage. It was their 10-year anniversary. So for those that say, man, Kelly, you and your wife travel a lot. Listen, it took us 30-something years to get to this place. So at our 10-year anniversary, we went on this cruise. And get this, we knew nothing about cruises. We had an inside cabin with bunk beds. It was romantic, let me tell you. But this storm came across this freak out of nowhere, or this boat hit this freak out of nowhere storm, giving us 30-foot plus waves that we were navigating through. The only people that were walking straight on this cruise were the drunk people. That's it. I mean, you sit at your table and you're trying to hold your silverware, your plates in place. That was really wild. Storms can be devastating, amen? The National Weather Service tells us that worldwide this year, or per year, we see 16 million thunderstorms worldwide. In the U.S., we see about 100,000 thunderstorms that occur yearly in the U.S. Only 10% of those are considered severe. Well, 10% of 100,000 is still 10,000. That's a lot of severe thunderstorms we're seeing. Come on, right, 11-8? Come on now. Y'all know I like for you to talk to me. The more you talk, the shorter the message is. So, but on the website, they talk about how different areas of the U.S. where you're more likely to experience these storms. But then they end with this. They say, no place in the United States is completely safe from the threat of severe weather. No place in the U.S. is completely safe from the threat of a severe storm. Isn't that true about life? No person, no place is completely safe from the threat of a severe, unexpected storm. Pastor Bob, if you were here last week, talked about this, how his life hit an unexpected storm. He had been sick for a while and still working, but, fighting through the sickness, they finally figured out what it is. He have to have his gallbladder removed. Well, instead of being at home recovering from gallbladder surgery, 2 days after that, or 3 days after that, he's having to preach his sister's funeral. And the storm, wave upon wave upon wave, because no one is 100% safe from the threat of an unsuspected storm. And there's some of you here today or even online, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You found yourself in an unexpected storm. Maybe you unexpectedly got laid off or fired. Maybe you unexpectedly you went to the doctor and the doctor gave you a report that you were not expecting, and it's not good. Maybe you lost your home or a place to live. Maybe your marriage has taken a hit. Maybe depression and loneliness has just come over you. Here's my thing. We've got all these things that can predict and tell us, hey, there's a 50% chance of rain or clouds. Wouldn't it be great if life came with that? I mean, hey, today there's a 50% chance of marital breakdown. Please be prepared and compliment your wife. Hey, today there's a 70% chance of being laid off. Be prepared to look for work. There's a 90% chance of depression and anxiety day. So stay away from news and talk about the election. Not talk about it, don't talk about it. Or, hey, there's a 50% of temptation on Wednesday. And that percent is going to rise as we get closer to the weekend. I mean, wouldn't it be great if you got up in the morning and bam, there was an app that told you what to look out for that day? But that's not the way life works. Life storms hit without warning, giving you no time to prepare, no time to brace yourself. And no one is safe from a storm. So what I want to do today is I want to help you survive a storm. Because if you're not going through a storm right now, you will. That's life. And maybe you're in the middle of a storm right now. What I want to do is not just help you survive the storm, but come out thriving. Come out of that thriving. So before we really dive in, if you're not a note taker, I would suggest you write this down. And this is going to be in your notes. But if you don't leave here with anything else, you need to leave today knowing this right here. That the one who is in you is greater than the storm you're going through. You need to understand that. The one that is in you is greater than the storm you're going through. Now let me clarify this statement. That statement is only true if you're a follower of Jesus. It's only true. Because if you don't have Jesus inside you, all you've got in you is you. And you are not big enough or powerful enough to combat and survive the storms that life can throw at you. Are you hearing me? So the one that is in you is greater than the storm you're going through. I want to look at two unexpected storms that both of them involve Jesus and his disciples. These are going to be found in Luke 8 and Matthew 14. And we're going to start with a story in Luke 8. Let me give you a little backstory before we jump in here. In chapter 7, the chapter before this one, in verses 1 through 10, we see Jesus heal a servant of a Roman officer, a centurion, and he doesn't go lay hands on the kid. He just says, hey, he's healed. Just speaks a word. In verses 11 through 17, Jesus goes into the village of Nain where this funeral procession is taking place. This widow's only son is dead. Jesus walks up to the coffin and just says, get up. The boy wakes up and starts talking. That's a pretty good miracle, right? Come on. In verses 18 through 22 of chapter 7, John the Baptist is in jail and getting word about all these things that Jesus is doing. So he sends two of his disciples, hey, go find out if this is the one we've been waiting on. And Jesus sends word back telling him, I am the one. At the end of chapter 7, we see the woman with the alabaster jar of expensive perfume that barges into Simon the Pharisee's home uninvited, makes a beeline toward Jesus, and pours out this perfume on Jesus. That's chapter 7. Chapter 8 opens up with the parable of the sower. If you're not familiar with that, Jesus talks about this farmer that scatters seed, and some of it fell on the footpath. Birds came along and ate it. Some of it fell among rock. It started to grow, but for lack of nourishment, it died. Some fell among thorns, started to grow, but the life choked. The cares of life choked it to death. Some fell on good soil, and it bore 100 times what was sown. He then tells the parable of the lampstand. No one lights a lamp, hides it. And then Jesus offends his own mom and brothers, which is a story for another time. But we're going to be, this is where all that has happened to where we're jumping in today, verse 22. One day Jesus said to his disciples, let us go over to the other side of the lake. So they got into the boat and set out. Let's stop here. Whose idea was it for the disciples to get into the boat? Jesus. Keep that in mind. As they sailed, Jesus fell asleep. A squall came down on the lake so that the boat was being swamped, and they were in great danger. The disciples went and woke him, saying, Master, Master, we're going to drown. Jesus got up, rebuked the wind, the raging waters, the storm subsided, and all was calm. Where is your faith? Jesus asked his disciples. In fear and amazement, they asked one another, who is this? He commands even the winds and the water, and they obey him. So Jesus finishes teaching, gets his disciples in the boat to go over to the other side, and then goes and takes a nap. Let me ask, anybody think the disciples knew they were getting ready to go into a storm? No. I mean, they didn't have a weather app. They didn't have an Al Roker that's telling them what's happening in their neck of the woods. I mean, none of that. They simply, you need to hear this. The disciples were simply doing what Jesus had told them to do. And they found themselves in a storm. Let's read verses 22 and 23 again. One day Jesus said to his disciples, let us go over to the other side of the lake. So they got into the boat and set out. As they sailed, Jesus fell asleep. A squall came down the lake so that the boat was being swamped and they were in great danger. So Jesus lays down to take a nap, and then this storm hits out of nowhere. And you got to understand, this is a bad storm. And here's how you know it's a bad storm, because a lot of these guys that were in the boat with Jesus, they were seasoned fishermen. They had been in storms. And it was not like they could look out there and see, oh man, there's clouds brewing. Because let me tell you about where they were sailing. It was the Sea of Galilee. Sea of Galilee is 600 feet below sea level. It's got cliffs that surround it that are around 2,000 feet tall. And so what happens on the Sea of Galilee is you've got this cool, dry air comes down from these cliffs, creates these tropical, warm, moist air. When the cool, dry air meets the warm, tropical, moist air, it creates a pressure system that causes these winds to just come barreling through there, creating these violent storms, and they come out of nowhere. And that's where these young disciples find themselves. And they're thinking, we are about to die. Which brings me to the first thing you need to know when you face an unexpected storm. Storms come even with Jesus in the boat. Storms come even with Jesus in the boat. And here's the thing. Not only is Jesus in the boat, it was Jesus' idea for them to get into the boat. Anybody ever have that one friend? You know, if they go, you're going to find yourself in a bad situation. And if you don't know that one friend, you're the friend. You're the one. Quit it. But Jesus is the one that told them to get in the boat. And here's the thing. These guys have been with Jesus for about 3 years, going on 3 years. They've heard his teaching. They've seen some incredible miracles, seen healings. They know Jesus is no ordinary man. But what is the first thing they do when this storm hits? They panic. They start screaming, we're going to die. We're going to die, Jesus. And it's easy for us to think, how in the world could they be this afraid? They've walked with Jesus. They've watched him, seen him do some incredible healings. But let's be honest, how do we act when we hit a storm? I mean, if it's like a tropical depression, we've got faith. Oh, we're praying. But then through that prayer, that tropical depression graduates into a tropical storm. We keep praying. We keep praying. We're not seeing anything happen, but we're praying and believing. Suddenly it's a cat 1, cat 2, cat 3, cat 4. After all that praying, and we're not seeing it happen, and we're still in the storm, we're like, God, where are you? Come on, can anybody be honest? God, what is going on? What did I do wrong to cause this mess I'm in? And we've got to know when we're going through those storms that it doesn't necessarily mean you did anything wrong. It doesn't mean that God is nowhere around. Look what Jesus does here in Luke 8:24. Jesus got up, rebuked the wind, the raging waters, the storm subsided, and all was calm. He says, where is your faith? Picture this. Jesus gets up, wipes the sleep out of his eyes. He yawns and stretches, hollers at the storm just stops. I don't think when Jesus said, where's your faith? I don't think he was angry at them for waking him up. I think he was disheartened. I think he looked at these young men that have been walking with him for 2.5 years. And he's disheartened because they still don't fully grasp who it is that's in the boat with them. 2.5 years, and they still don't know. They're still not confident this is the Messiah. Let's look at another storm the disciples found themselves in, Matthew 14. Again, if you read the stories going up to where we're jumping in, the disciples have just finished seeing Jesus perform one of the most talked about miracles, the miracle where he takes 2 fish and 5 loaves and feeds the 5,000. And if you ever heard me preach on this, it was 5,000 was just counting the men, not the women and children. They estimate the number could be up to 22,000 people that Jesus fed with just that. They just see that happen. They're part of that miracle. And that's where we're going to jump in, verse 22 of Matthew 14. Immediately, look at this underlined part. Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. What did Jesus make them do? Get in the boat. He made them get in the boat. And then he says, go on ahead of me. What he's doing is letting them know, hey guys, I'm going to be meeting you later. He's kind of letting them know without saying it, you're about to go through stuff, but I need you to keep, I'm going to meet you on the other side. Verse 23, after he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone. And the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. That word buffeted is the Greek word, and I'm going to try to say this without butchering it, basinezo. Here's what it means to torment, to torture, or to vex. What they're letting us know is this also was a bad storm. When I was doing a study on this word, I found something very interesting to me. This word also, get this, it also means to test the purity of gold or silver. Tested by the waves, buffeted by the waves. Who made the disciples get into the boat? Jesus. Jesus dismisses the crowd, then goes off by himself to pray, while his disciples that he made get into a boat are out at sea with a storm brewing. I know we don't like to say this, talk about this, preach it. We don't like it said to us or preached to us. But here's the truth if you're taking notes. Sometimes Jesus places us in the path of a storm. Sometimes he does. Well, what do you mean? Where's Jesus at in all this? Where's he at? On the hill praying, right? Where's the disciples? In the storm. Who told them, who made them get into the boat? Jesus. See, and you got to be honest, guys. I know you're in church and you're supposed to lie and act like everything's good, and but let's be honest. Don't we like the Jesus that shows up like that more than the Jesus that while we're going through a storm, he's up here on the mountain praying somewhere? Come on, anybody with me? I want to pray and bam, prayer's answered. I don't like praying. Jesus, where you at? What's going on? What's happening, God? We love the God that does what we want him to do when we want him to do it. When God's showing up like we wanted to or we expected him to. See, we don't doubt his presence or his grace or his love during those times, do we? But here's the thing about storms. Storms can cause you to doubt God. You ever walk through a storm and out of nowhere doubt began to come creeping in? That's where some of you've got a storm of doubt going on. Doubt that God really does care about you. Doubt that God really does see what you're going through right now. Doubt that God still heals. God still sets people free. Even doubting that he is real and active in the world today. Storms can cause you to doubt. Let me show you something that's pretty cool. Bring that picture up for me. This is Mount Arbel. And I don't know the person in the photo. It's just the best picture that I could show you, the Sea of Galilee and Mount Arbel right there. Most theologians believe this is where Jesus was praying after he sent the disciples out to cross over to the other side. Let me give you a different angle. Bring that up, next view. This is a view from the water up to that top point. That's where most theologians believe Jesus was praying. That's the Sea of Galilee. And here's what I'm trying to say at point 4. Even in the middle of a storm, you are never out of the sight of Jesus. Even in the middle of your storm. Listen, maybe you're thinking, does God even see what I'm going through? Can he even see the storm I'm in? The answer is yes, because his eyes are always on you. I remember, anybody, I'm not a mall guy. Anybody like going to the mall? Somebody's even going to admit it right now. Listen, when Amazon, I could shop from home, that was like a gift from God to me. But I remember going to the mall, and I'm one of those people, I don't care how big the mall is. It could be Mall America, it could be Hamilton Place. I can go in 15 minutes. I've seen everything in that mall I need to see. I'm done. While in 15 minutes, Denise has just went down the first aisle of the first store. But I remember this. See, it used to just be malls, and then somebody got the genius thing to set up PlayStations in the mall where you could take your kids. And it began to be the gathering place of beat down and exhausted dads and husbands to watch their kids so they didn't make sure they didn't break anything in the store. But I remember Sheridan, we were at the mall, and I decided, you know what, I've seen that. So I took Sheridan. She's playing. I sit down by the other exhausted dads. And I'm watching her. I'm keeping my eye on her. Yes, I'm having conversation, but also looking for my daughter. She goes around, gets out of my sight. You know what I do? I get up from where I'm at. I go over. Okay, she's good. Sheridan never knew I was there. But that doesn't mean Daddy wasn't watching. And I'm trying to tell you this. You may not even realize it. You may not even know it. But that doesn't mean Father God is not watching and seeing what you're going through in the moment. He is always there. Verse 25. Shortly before dawn. This is not the Jesus we like to see. Jesus looks down, sees them in bad shape, and then lets them stay there for a little while. Shortly before dawn, Jesus says, hey, I guess I better go out to them. And he goes out to them walking on the water. You remember the picture I just showed you of Mount Arbel looking down on the Sea of Galilee? So if Jesus is up here, the disciples are down here, what did Jesus have to do to get to them? He had to go down to them. And here's what I'm saying. Jesus is willing to come down to where you are and meet you in the middle of your storm. You don't have to tough it out. You don't have to make it through and then go to him. No, he is willing right there in the middle of your storm to come down to right where you are. Here's the thing, the disciples, Jesus was moving toward them, but the disciples couldn't see it, right? They couldn't see. The storm had their attention. They didn't know it. All they knew was, hey, Jesus made us get into this boat, and now he's nowhere to be found. And it's some of you right now. You may have not voiced it out loud, but in your mind, you're like, God, I'm doing what you asked me to do. I'm in the place you put me in. And this storm is about to kick my tail. The rain and wind is getting so strong that I can barely see 2 feet in front of me. And all I can think of is, where are you, God? See, here's the thing about Jesus. Jesus was on his way to the disciples, and he may have not have gotten there when they wanted him to. He may not get to us when we want him to, but he is never, ever late. I'll never forget when I was somewhere between the ages of 10 and 12. My dad has 12 brothers and sisters. So when the family got together, in fact, I've got a family gathering this Saturday, our family reunion. And every year I see people that I don't know. I just think they act like they're part of the family to eat. That's what I think. But we used to gather almost every Sunday. We'd eat at my Granny Goins' house, and we'd have something going on. We'd play football, we'd play softball. And I remember this one particular day we were playing softball, and the ball got through, and it went behind me, went over my head, over this chain link fence. And now there's so many safety precautions, you know. But back then, the chain link fences, when they got to the top, it was just these two wires that did this. So I jumped over the fence to get the ball. I throw it back. When I go to climb back over, I'm climbing, and my hand slips, and those things hit me right here. Still got a scar. And I remember the blood was, I thought I'm going to die. There was blood all over me. I remember my dad seeing it happen. And he comes running to me. It's like slow motion. I mean, I'm seeing him running, but it's like, is he ever going to get here? He picks me up in his arms and carries me to the car and then takes me to the emergency room. You know what? Not one time when Dad saw me hurt, he saw me bleeding, his thought was that I don't want to get blood on my nice shirt. I don't want blood to stain the seats of my car. His only concern was, my boy is hurt, and I need to get him where somebody can help him. And I'm saying that to tell you this. When you're hurt, when you're going through the storm, he is not afraid to get his hands dirty. He's not afraid to get a little blood on him. Whatever it takes, he will come running to you. Somebody needs to hear that. Sometimes it feels like he's in slow motion. You ever, you know, like the old David Hasselhoff, you're running. But rest assured, he's on his way. See, he was on his way. He was taking steps toward the disciples that were in the storm, but they couldn't see it. But that didn't mean he wasn't moving forward toward them. There's some of you here today, you don't even realize it, but when you woke up this morning, he had already taken 3 more steps towards you. When you got dressed for church, he took another step towards you. When you turned your car in the direction of this house and began coming this way, he had already taken another couple steps towards you. When you got out of your car, headed toward the door, another step he took. When you leave here today, he's going to be taking another step towards you. When you get up in the morning, he's going to be taking a step towards you. Here's what I'm saying. You may not see him, you may not can feel him, but that does not mean he is not moving towards you. Stay where you are. I don't want to get ahead of myself. And you may say, PK, how do you know that? I know because I'm confident of the things that me and Denise have gone through, that the one who is in you is greater than any storm you will ever go through. Verse 26. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. It's a ghost, they said, and they cried out in fear. Do you know why they were terrified? Because this was not how they imagined Jesus or God coming to their rescue. This didn't fit into their theology. This didn't fit into the way they thought things should be done. And here's my point. You cannot reduce Jesus into your parameters. See, here's the biggest setback for some of you. You've tried to put Jesus or Holy Spirit or God in a box of how you think he should work in your situation. You want him to show up in a way that makes sense to you. You want him to show up on your terms. But God refuses to be put into any box. See, when Jesus shows up, most of the time, can I be honest, it's a way I wasn't expecting it to. A lot of times it catches me off guard. And that's what, anybody think the disciples were caught off guard when they see a figure walking to them on the water? I wonder how many times, guys, we're crying out for God to rescue us. We're crying out for God to do something in our lives. And because he doesn't come in a way that we think he should come, we can't even recognize him. See, the disciples were so fixated on how they thought Jesus would come to them that they didn't even recognize him when he did show up. They think it's a ghost. They don't think it's Jesus. Look what Jesus says to them in verse 27. But Jesus immediately said to them, take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. The disciples are in a storm. Which I need to let you know, Jesus speaks in the storms. He speaks in the storm. See, so many times we're going through a storm, and what we want to do whenever we're in a storm is we want to do all the talking, right? We think that's our opportunity to tell God everything. And I'm not trying to be rude, but sometimes I think God is saying, shh, shut your mouth and listen. You know why? Because a lot of times when we're in a storm, what's coming out of our mouth is not helpful to us or anybody around us. Are you hearing us? And God is saying, stop it. Be quiet and just listen to me. See, I can get so busy fixated on giving God my list of complaints that I can't hear him what he's saying to me. You ever thought about, hey, well, if God really loved the disciples, he never would have let them go into this storm. You ever thought about yourself? If God really loved me, he would not have allowed this to happen to my life. Point number 7, Jesus loves you so much that he will give a storm permission to come into your life. Why is that? Listen, I can only speak for myself, and I'm going to be very honest and transparent with you. If there aren't any storms in my life, if it's been a while that a little while since I've faced a storm, if I allow myself during those seasons where everything's going great, I can have a season where I don't talk to God like I should. I'm not reading my word like I should because it's sunny. It's 80 degrees outside. It's perfect riding weather. Things are great. But let me tell you, you let a storm hit my life, it's worship music on repeat. Listen, I'm not just doing one Bible reading plan. I've got 6 going. I'm just trying to hear from God in that moment. I'm praying in the morning. I'm like the guy that said, I never pray more than 5 minutes, but I never go more than 5 minutes without praying. Well, but why? Because storms have a way of drawing us back into pursuing him. See, there are things that the disciples experienced things they never would have experienced had they not been in that storm. See, here's what I'm saying. If you're in a storm right now, don't miss the opportunity to lean into God and hear his voice. Let's finish this up. Verse 28. Peter said, Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water. Isn't that a weird request? Let's be honest. I'm in the middle of a storm, and Jesus says it's me. I'm like, Lord, if it's you, can you make this stop? That's a good request. But not, Lord, if it's you. But here's the thing. If Jesus is in the storm and not in the boat, the safest place for me to be is in the middle of the storm. Are you following me? And Jesus says one word, come. How many words did Jesus speak to Peter? 1, come. One word is all Peter needed from Jesus for him to jump over the edge of that boat and on the water. In verse 8, see, when you're going through a storm, we will always have the option of staying put or moving closer to Jesus. Those are our options. Stay put, stay where you're at, or move closer to Jesus. Storms give us the opportunity to put into practice what we say we believe. It's easy to say you believe this, this, and this, but until you're put into a situation where you have to live it out, Are you with me? Where it becomes reality? See, storms allow us to experience Jesus in ways we never would have. I've been through some storms in my life. Did I enjoy losing a son at 3 days old? No. Did I enjoy losing my dad and my father-in-law within a 3-month span? No. Did I enjoy losing my mom? Absolutely not. But I got to experience and know Jesus in different ways that I never would have if I had not walked through that storm. I grew in ways I never would have because of that storm. I experienced His love and grace in ways I never would have because of that storm. There are things I learned about Kelly that I never would have if I hadn't walked through that storm. And here's what I'm saying to you. If you're going through a storm, don't waste your storm. Are you hearing me? Don't waste your storm. Draw closer to Jesus. Lean into Jesus. Get out of that boat that's been a safety net and move closer to where He's at. Peter says, if it's you, Lord, tell me to come to you on the water. And Jesus gives Peter one word, come. Let me ask you, for those that are in a storm, what's the one word that Jesus is saying to you right now in your storm? Forgive, repent, confess, stop, stay, rest, be still. Whatever it is He is speaking to you, He is giving you an opportunity to draw closer to Him. Let's finish. Verse 29. Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. I appreciate the fact that Peter at least cried out to Jesus. I appreciate the fact that it was immediate. He didn't think, well, you know what, I think I can handle this. I can get myself, I can get back to the boat myself. I'm a good swimmer. I've been at sea. Immediately, he cried out, save me. I think it's funny how men are especially bad about this. But we don't want to admit our need for help. We don't want to admit when we're in a dark place with depression or anxiety that we're in this hole and we have no way to get an idea of how to get out of it. We don't want to admit that. We don't want to admit that, hey, I'm hurting. I feel alone. I feel forgotten. I'm convinced that if we could learn to ask for help, we could keep the damage from the storm to a minimum, the hurt to a minimum, the pain to a minimum. See, I think we need to learn to cry out for help, even if we're the reason we're in that situation. Our stupidness, our foolishness got us there. Peter gets out of the boat. He takes that first couple of steps on the water. Come on. I'm feeling pretty good about myself if I've taken a couple steps on water. I'm looking back at the disciples going, you saying this? But then he begins to sink and he realizes, I can't do this on my own. I need Jesus. Save me, he says. Lord, save me. And maybe that's where God has some of you today. You feel like you're sinking. You feel like everything that could go wrong is going wrong. And maybe you just need to pray that 3-word prayer that Peter prayed. Lord, save me. Lord, save me. I don't know where else to turn, God. I've tried everything else. Lord, just save me. I'm telling you guys, if you will just get past you and pray that 3-word prayer, Lord, save me, look what can happen. Verse 31. Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. Immediately. Jesus didn't look at Peter and say, hey, you got yourself into the salt mess. You get yourself out. No, it says that he immediately reached out and caught him and said to him, you have little faith. Why do you doubt? I think Jesus was just trying to say to Peter, Peter, why did you doubt? Have you not been around me enough to know I'm always watching? My eyes are always on you. I'm telling you, when you're in the middle of the storm and you can reach for the hand of Jesus, let me tell you, whose hand you're holding in the storm makes all the difference in the world. It'll determine how you come out of that storm. 32. And I think I really am finishing this time. And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshiped him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. Jesus comes to them in a way that they weren't expecting him to. And I guarantee you they never forgot that day. Jesus allowed them to go into this storm knowing they were about to face this storm. And Jesus made them get into the boat. Why? I think because Jesus knew that the storms they were going to face once he was gone, this was small in comparison to that. The storms that they were going to go through in this life are small in comparison to that storm that they were in. And he needed them to understand, hey, greater is the one in you than any storm you will ever go through. So when Jesus made them get in the boat that was sailing into a storm, he wasn't trying to punish them. He was preparing them, church. Preparing them. So maybe the storm that you're in right now is not a punishment, but God is trying to prepare you for something. And if we can get to where we understand the love that God has for us, that his will for us is a hope and future, and that there's nothing in this world that this world can throw at us that he can't handle, that because the one in us is greater than the storm we're going through, there is nothing we cannot survive and come out thriving. Check this out. When they crossed over, they got to where Jesus told them they were going. Maybe Jesus left out a couple of details. But they got there where Jesus told them they were going. He did it his way, in his timing, and the way he knew it should be done. Why? Because Jesus is more concerned about your calling than he is your comfort. Are you hearing me? If I can get Bubba, then come on up. He's more concerned about your calling than he is your comfort. I'm convinced there are people in this room, you're going through storms. There are people online, you're going through storm. Things that you didn't expect. There are people, maybe you're going through a storm that you're the reason for the storm. Can I tell you, Jesus still wants to rescue you out of your own mess that you created. But whether you created it or life just hit you out of nowhere, if you're a follower of Jesus, you need to understand the one that is in you is greater than any storm you're going through. I told you at the first of this, if you weren't a follower, that's only true if you're a follower of Jesus. And I would give you an opportunity, if you weren't, to change that. No heads bowed, no eyes closed. If you'd say, you know what, Pastor, today I want to make sure that I'm surrendered to him, that he is inside of me, that today that I am a follower of Jesus. I want to make sure of that. Just raise your hand. Come on. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, man. Absolutely. Anybody else? Now keep your hands up, if you will. I'm going to send a couple. Casey, could you and me go back here and pray with these two men? Come on. Hey, guys, man, thank you for your courage. Thank you for your courage. Guy in the blue shirt here, Casey. Right here. No. Blue shirt, yeah. Now, there are others going through a storm. Go ahead and stand with me. They're praying, man. I'm going to let them do. There's some in here, man, you're walking through a storm. I don't know if it's physical. I don't know if it's relational. I don't know if it's spiritual. I don't know if depression is. I'm just feeling that really strong, that depression has been hovering over at least one person like a cloud for at least the past week. And you don't want it to be there, but you don't know what to do. And that's your storm you're in right now. If you're in a storm, you say, you know what, Pastor? I'm going to admit I'm in a storm. Kind of hit me out of nowhere. Or, Pastor, I'm in a storm that I kind of created. It doesn't matter. That's not the issue. I just need somebody to be honest and say, yeah, I'm in a storm and I need to feel his presence. I need to feel his hand on. I need to really be assured that he is in me, that the one in me is greater than the storm I'm going through. And I don't want to feel like I'm walking this storm alone. If you're in a storm right now and you need Holy Spirit, you need God just to put his hand on your shoulder and say, I'm with you. If that's you, raise your hand. Yeah. All over the place. All over the place. And put them down. I'm going to ask, now if you're part of our prayer team and you raise your hand, you stay put. But I'm going to ask our prayer team to come on down. I've asked Jill to sing a song. And I want to count to 3. If you raised your hand, or if you didn't raise your hand, but you need prayer. And here's what this is doing. Kelly, can I not do it? Back here, yeah. But what this is doing, this is you saying, I have the option of staying put or moving toward Jesus. I'm going to move toward him. That's all that's doing. And then it's connecting you with someone that can pray with you. So I'm going to count to 3. If you raised your hand, don't hesitate. Don't look around and see if somebody else